How to not get hacked, minimizing your digital footprint and keeping your personal data safe. My name is Luca, and today we will be talking about how to keep your information safe on the internet. The internet is such an integral and interconnected part of our lives at this point that it's easy for our personal data to get out there in the world without our consent. And the goal of this program is to try to show you some ways that you can retain control of your personal information and make sure you're only using what you need to when you're navigating online. So, what is a digital footprint? Your digital footprint is a record of your existence on the internet, and it is mostly permanent. Your digital footprint is a series of breadcrumbs you leave all over the internet. Whether that is posts you make on social media, on Facebook or Twitter, or that's survey information you filled out one time to get a free pizza, or it's your address that might exist on the White Pages website. All of this stuff contributes to your digital footprint, a digital record of your existence on the internet. This can be a bad thing because people can buy and sell this information very easily and use it to market it to you or to sell you things, or in certain circumstances, use it to try to steal your identity or use your personal data against you for extortive purposes. Bearing this in mind while you navigate the internet is very important to minimizing any exposure you would have to this sort of behavior. The best place to start is just with Googling yourself. Type in your full name into Google and see what it shows you. This is something that you definitely want to do regularly to see if there's anything or any traces of yourself on the internet that are there that you don't want to be there. Sometimes it can be an account that has your full legal name on it and your birthday that you don't want to be there because you don't want anyone to have that information readily handy. Or it can be incidental things, old Facebook posts that are actually public instead of private like you thought they would be, and can lead back to your personal accounts and give hackers or identity thieves fuel to steal your data. Googling yourself is something you should do regularly, at least maybe every couple months or maybe once a month, just to see what kind of record of yourself you're leaving on the internet. Now I'm going to show you all some steps to minimize your digital footprint and to ensure that you are only sharing as much information on the internet as you absolutely have to. One of the easiest options is to use a password manager. Most folks use the same one or two passwords for their various logins on the internet, and this is very not good because if you're using the same login for multiple accounts, if someone figures out your password for your Facebook account and that's the password you also use for your bank account, then you're going to be in trouble. So using a password manager is a very convenient way to still only have to remember one password, but having automatically generated passwords for each of your accounts. Password managers basically will keep track of all of the different accounts you use and that you tell it to use, and generate random passwords that are kind of a jumble of letters and numbers. And it will store all of those for your various accounts, and it will change them regularly for you. So you're always going to be having changing passwords, but in order to access your password manager, there's only one password you have to remember. And also most of these password manager services have phone apps, so you can just keep this information at in your pocket at the ready. Or browser extensions, so whenever you're browsing on your computer at home, it will just autofill all this data for you. It makes it a lot easier to navigate the internet and also just have some peace of mind that your passwords are secure and strong. Having a dedicated email address for your spam is pretty common for a lot of folks now, but it's definitely something not to overlook. It's super hard to navigate the internet without having to give away your email address. And you definitely don't want to give away your personal email address that you use for sensitive information. So having a specific email address to use whenever you need to sign up for a mailing list, or signing up for an account for a site that you're not going to use very much, that is having a spam email address is extremely helpful, because you don't have to worry about giving someone the email address that you use for sensitive topics or sensitive information. It's also worth noting for your spam email address to not put much personal information in there, to keep it pretty vague and private, and have a dedicated personal email address that you only give out for specific situations where you are comfortable having your personal information there. Limit your social media presence. Everyone has a social media presence these days, and it's unavoidable for a lot of folks, because this is how we keep up with our families and our friends. But something you want to be careful about is how much you're sharing on social media, because even if your social media account is private, folks can still get in and find personal information about you on your Facebook account, your Twitter account, your Instagram, and any details you might share about your life can be used to answer security questions or be used by identity thieves to impersonate you. So being careful how much you're sharing about yourself on these social media platforms is extremely important. Being careful of what you post pictures of, or any addresses you may share, or phone numbers. Because social media is very easy and very visible to hackers and identity thieves, and you want to make sure that you're posting stuff that won't be used against you. Deleting your old email accounts. I feel like most of us have had different email accounts over the course of like almost a decade or two at this point, and close to 3 also. And a lot of folks will kind of move email accounts every couple of years, and they always leave behind their older accounts. And those older accounts, you generally aren't updating your passwords for those. And for those older accounts, you still may have personal information in those old emails that if someone got a hold of that, they could sell that information for profit, or use it to extort you, or use it for really any nefarious purposes. So if you have any old email accounts that you still have access to, save the emails. You absolutely have to. But just deleting these old accounts is a very helpful way to kind of clear your tracks and make sure you're not giving interested parties any fuel to use or sell your information. Location tracking. I feel like all of us have location tracking just automatically turned on our phones, which is very convenient for GPS when we're stuck in traffic and trying to find shortcuts to make our way to school or work. But a lot of us will just keep location tracking on all the time, not just when we're using our GPS. And this location tracking data can be used by either your phone company or any other companies who have apps on your phone, and they can take that data about where you go and sell it to advertisers for marketing purposes, to try to put ads on your phone that are relevant to your interests. And that data can also be used for nefarious purposes if someone's trying to steal your identity or hack into your information. With stuff like this, it kind of comes back to the big theme of this program, which is you only want to be giving away the data you're willing to let be used by big corporations and others for their purposes. So a way to do this is just to consider turning your location tracking off when you're not using it, and also going on your phone to see which apps have permissions for location tracking and blocking permissions for apps that really have no need for that. The only ones that you should really have need for location tracking are probably just your GPS application. Mailing lists. Mailing lists are a super convenient way for you to keep up with stores that you are a big fan of, or artists or content creators, and they're very convenient for those purposes. But those mailing lists full of emails are often sold off or packed into to get people's information. So mailing lists seem convenient, but they actually might come to hurt you in the end, especially if you're not using a spam email address. If you sign up for a mailing list on one of your personal email accounts, that could really be bad news for you. So definitely being mindful of what you're signing up for when you sign up for a mailing list is extremely important. Internet surveys. A lot of companies will offer you like a free pizza or something if you fill out a survey for them. And while this might seem like a good idea in the moment, especially if you're craving pizza, a lot of the survey information will be not only used by the company you're filling that out for, but also they might take that survey data and sell it to other folks. And your survey, your personal information is valuable to them. And if you're giving it away for free or just for an entry into a competition or just like free goods, you are putting yourself at risk of being exposed to lots of spam calls and lots of spam emails, because you're putting your information out there, and the more your information is available on the internet, the more likely you are to be marketed to without your consent. So it's definitely something to keep in mind whenever these clickbaity surveys pop up. Managing your connected accounts. It's extremely popular these days that whenever you're trying to make an account for a website or a store, that they give you the option to just log in using your Facebook account or your Google account. And that seems really convenient in the moment, especially if you don't want to have another password or login to memorize. But there are downsides to this because you're allowing that site to share information with Google or with Facebook or with Twitter. And when these sites share information with each other, you're often going to use that information to create marketing analytics, and that can be used to market to you against your will or without your consent. And also, if someone is trying to hack into your accounts or steal your identity, if they figure out your Facebook login or your Google login, then they have access to a couple dozen other sites that may have your credit card information or personal information or your address or something. So trying to limit how much you use connected accounts is extremely important. And if you're worried about having multiple passwords to worry about, then consider the password managers we talked about earlier, because that makes it much easier to have separate accounts for each online account that you may have for various stores or news applications or streaming services that all have important information associated with your account, and you want to make sure that they are all individually locked away so no one can have access to that precious personal data. Managing your digital footprint is a preventative measure. The only way to protect yourself online is to take these proactive steps and make sure that you are protecting your information and keeping it safe, and that you're being mindful of what you're sharing on the internet and making sure that you're only sharing what you're comfortable with other folks knowing. If your data is ever stolen or hacked into or sold off to the highest bidder, your options are much more limited and you have a lot less control of what happens. So taking these preventative steps before it happens are extremely important, and you will rest easy because you know you are minimizing your exposure to any of these very unfortunate events that are extremely common and are increasingly online and interconnected spaces.